Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Today let me talk about a policy that will help you create a globally unique identifier for all resources that you have in Azure. Now you may say, okay, all resources in Azure, they are already globally unique. Why do I need that? So what I have here is if you go to one of my resource groups, okay, and let's go to this one. So in this one, I have a storage account. But what is the GUID? What is the unique identifier? So if you open up the storage account in here, maybe look at the JSON view. Okay, here is a resource ID, and this resource ID is truly unique. Okay, but look what we have here. We have the subscription, we have the subscription ID, we have the resource groups, and then the name of the resource groups, then provider, then the name of the particular provider, and then I have the storage account, and finally the storage account name. So all of that in combination creates my GUID, or globally unique identifier. Okay, so let me bring up something here real quick. So what I'm talking about is GUID, which is a globally unique ID or identifier. Okay, so if I copy this one and paste for the storage account, it will look something like that. Okay, over here. Now think about this. If I move this resource to a different resource group, say I have a new resource group that is AZRGADLS2, and I want to move this resource. Okay, so what is going to happen if you copy this one? Most likely a new resource group will be created. Okay, and the ID will be something like that. So this will change. So when you go to the same resource the next time, the GUID, the way Azure identifies, will be different. So the problem that I see in real life when you have integration with say CMDB tool, okay, Jira, ServiceNow, anything like that, ServiceNow might get confused, or your Jira might get confused, your own CHP might get confused, and it might think, okay, this is a completely different record, and now this is a completely different record. How do you stop that? Now, one way to solve this problem will be to create a GUID every single time any resource is getting created and have a tag. So create a tag, have a policy that will create your GUID, and it will create a unique string for every single resource. Okay, with that, the benefit is when you move this resource, okay, from one to another, the tag will not change. Tag will stay the same. Okay, so that solves a lot of problems for you. Now the question is, how do you automatically generate this GUID by Azure policy and not do it by hand? Okay, before we do too much, so let's stay here for a second and let's see if we can move this one to another resource group. And what we'll do, we'll move it to say the lab RSS, that resource group. And what when you move a resource from one place to another, it goes through this validation phase. Okay, and it takes about sometimes a minute, sometimes five. So I'm going to pause, but what you will see that a green mark will show up in here, and once it does, you can hit the next and it will move the resource from one place to another. So I'm going to pause the video for a second. Alright everyone, if you notice that now it says, yeah, the storage account can be moved to the new resource group. If you hit next and you just agree that you understand the process and you really want to do that, so it's going to move from this resource group to this resource group. Okay, so I'm going to click on move, and it has started the move, and sometimes it takes again 3 to 4 minutes. I'm going to pause the video. So now notice that I'm here right now, and we have already copied our uh, our unique identifier, the way that Azure identifies this resource, and we have already placed it in here, so you can keep track of record of that, and we'll notice what happens when the unified resource ID, what will be the new unified resource ID. We'll notice that, and then we'll start looking at the tag and see how tagging can help create a GUID that will stay with your resource even when they are moved from one resource group to another. Okay, so let it go through its job, and I'm going to pause this and we'll come back in a second. All right, looks like the resource has been moved, and it says the moving to resource complete. So if I try to refresh the page under this resource group, nothing should show up here because yes, this resource is now gone. If I go to this resource group itself, try to refresh, that is now gone. So let's just go back to the resource group and we moved it to here. Let's say the storage has showed up because it's moved. Let's click on that one and go to JSON view. Let's see if our resource identifier has changed or not. So over here, instead of this, I'm going to just put it here and look at that. So this part is same, this part is same. That is where now you have a problem. Okay, that one has now changed, and over here rest of that remain the same. Okay, so what we really want to create a policy that will add a GUID, and when you move the resource, the GUID will stay with you. To do that, let's just go to the Azure policy and see what we have available. We don't have anything that's come by default. You have to write something. So we're gonna go to the definition, and we're gonna look for search for tag. See what we have. What we have. I really want to add a tag to a resource or every single resource. So there are a couple in here: append and add. I'm just gonna go with the add a tag to resources. This particular built-in policy. But this built-in policy is not enough. Okay, this built-in policy, uh, if you try to apply, okay, assign, I'll show you the current behavior. So what you need to provide the tag value and the tag name, and it will go through every single resource and update a particular tag name. Okay, but you don't want that. You want a GUID to be generated automatically by the system. So we need to do some stuff to these particular policies. Let's go back to the policy. You can open up the policy, and a lot of times what I do, I duplicate the policy so I have something to start with, like a starter template. So I'm going to click on the duplicate policy, and we're going to store the definition. You should be storing at the highest level possible. I have only one subscription, so I'm storing it there, and I'm going to call it Cloud Security Labs, and then GUID for resources. Okay. And you can call it a GUID tag to resources, something like that, and update your description accordingly. And then what we will do over here, the policy is going to look for the tag field. I can still use that one, I have no problem. But what value, this is where we need to change. Okay, so first of all, this I don't need to be parameterized. I'm just going to provide a value in there, so I don't need this section of the code. Okay, tag value, I'm going to just automatically generate. Now the question is, what are you going to put it in there? Now there is something called a template functions, and let's look at uh, template function uh, and see what they can do. So there are some string functions that you can use within the ARM template. Okay, there are a whole bunch of them. Okay, the one we are definitely going to use is the GUID. And if you look at the GUID function in here, it takes few parameters. Okay, at least one. So you have to give you a base string and then bunch of other parameters. Okay, so the way you could write is something like that. So over here in this one, if I use this, The GUID will be generated based on the subscription ID. Now the problem with that, if you use that, since every resource has the same subscription, everyone will have the same GUID. You don't want that. Okay, what about this? Can you use this one? Can you say, okay, go ahead and create a GUID based on the resource group.id? Well, this one is better than this, but still does not solve your problem completely. So if you have 10 resources within a resource group, all those 10 resources will have uh, this particular resource group ID. And for some reason, this does not work in policy. So what can you do? So first of all, let's go and try to change some of that stuff. So I have changed that and put it in here like this. Okay, and what I'll do, looks like I have an extra, somewhere I have an extra, I need to put one more. Yeah. So what we'll do, I'll try to save this and let's see if that works. And you see, you're gonna get that the template function could not be validated. Okay, and there is some error. Uh, okay, and it's gonna give you, okay, how to write your code so you don't get this problem. If I remove this part, and this is the one where really what happens, you get into a kind of loop, and with the policy, it can give you a lot of trouble. Now with this, it should work, so you should be able to save this. I still was not able to save it. Let me take a quick look at it. So I'm going to go after the GUID resource group dot ID, and what did it say? Function parameter. So this one is simplified. This one I was expecting that I can say. Let me just go try it one more time. Okay. Okay, let me take another quick look at it. Give me 1 second. Okay, I just have to do the duplicate the policy again for whatever reason. But what I did, I have changed the same thing with this value right now. Okay, GUID resource group.id. And if you save now, okay, if I save now with that change, I have no problem changing. Okay. But as I said, this is not going to solve your problem. This is going to create a GUID. It is always going to go after the resource group, and any resources that are deployed within a resource group, they will all have the same GUID. So that's not the right solution. So what you really need to do, you need to create a GUID, and as I said, uh, this particular function that I have, this one, the GUID can take multiple different parameters. So I can put comma, and the thing that I really like is the time, because time is always changing. So when people are creating a unique ID, there's another template function called NTC now. Okay, so if you add that to this particular resource group, so it will go to the resource group. Okay, that's fine, but it's also used the current time, and then use both of them to create a unique ID for you. And that is to me a perfect solution. If you want to add some more randomness to it, you can add whatever. Okay, right now I'm just gonna say to double star or something, but you can add another salt, whatever. Okay, I can even call it a salt. So it's just, something else I'm adding, not really required. Maybe I just don't do that for this one. This should be just fine. But what I'm trying to tell you, that if you wanted even more randomness, you can pass more parameters, because the GUID function takes more than, I mean, however many you want, you can provide many. But this one should be enough for us to create GUID, and they should all be unique. So let's save this one. So now this policy is now ready. Okay, then what? So your policy is now ready. So we have to figure out some way to apply the policy. Now let's just click on assign. That's the way you assign the policy. And let's now go for the lab RSS. That's why we now moved our resource group out the storage account, right? And hopefully there are a bunch of other resources, and then select it, and the assignment name. Okay, we actually want to let me just go back to the policy real quick and make sure that we still have the correct policy in there. Yeah, so this is the one that we want to add. So actually this, since we have made some changes, we'll change the name a little bit. GUID, and add GUID tag to resources. Okay, so now, so that you know what you have done, now you assign to that particular scope, that resource group, and I call it assignment. And then well, we actually wanted to go over to the resource group only and not to the whole subscription. So I'm selecting the scope, select the scope, and you hit next. So what is the name of the tag that you want? I want the tag name to be GUID. Hit next. I want a remediation task, meaning if there are existing resources and I don't have the GUID, I want the policy to go and create the GUID for me. Then hit next and create. So what will happen, it's going to assign the policy and it will create a remediation task. You see the remediation task. What that means, the policy is now in effect. So if you go there, go back to our resource group, which one did we apply? So go there. Here's where we have applied. So now this resource group, if you open up, there are no tags right now. Okay, if you rephrase few times, what you will see that not only in this particular resource, okay, the tag will show up for every single other resources as well, and the tag should be unique for all of them. Although your GUID is going to go after the resource group ID, okay, but at the end is also going to use the current time to have the randomness and generate the unique ID or GUID that will be unique for all of the resources. So it sometimes take a few minutes, so just give it some time, okay, and then come back to your resource and you will see that that will get started. Now you can also check the compliance of that policy that you applied. You can go back to the policy, go to the assignment bud, and there is the new policy that you have applied. You can click on the view compliance to look at the compliance with the policy. And as you see right now, uh, it's not been even evaluated properly. Okay, sometimes if you feel like, okay, I need to create the remediation done manually, so if you feel like, okay, the remediation didn't work properly, you can click on create a remediation task and then hit remediate. But what will happen, since we already have a remediation job going on, this is going to fail right now. So if you're not seeing anything, that means your remediation task that you have is actually uh, underway. As I said, it takes just a few minutes, so just give yourself 5 to 10 minutes and then come back and look at some of the resources again, and you will see that those tags will show up. Okay, let's see if I got already showed up in any. Okay, I'm going to pause the video, give about 5 minutes, and then I'll do the demo how and what is getting created. One thing you can do while you're waiting, you can always go to the tag and search for tag, and on the tag you can search for GUID and see, oh, there's only one. So one of them got created automatically. So just click on this one, see which resource is this one. So it looks like it's under the logic app resource. So let's just go to logic app, see if we have that one. And where are my tags? Here's my tag. Okay, so there's one. BA5 is ending 1BA5. Okay, let's look at this one tag. So we still have one problem in here, I see, that our GUID which got created, it's still this looks same to me. Like this one, I got only one GUID, and this one. Let's go to the tag. Yeah, it starts with E69EE. So the randomness that I really wanted, it don't think that it's there yet. So we need to modify our policy maybe just so let's just go. Yeah, E69 BA15. So what I have is closed, but I don't think it's there yet. So let me look at the storage account and let's look at storage guard. Storage, we don't have any tag yet. So while this is going on, let's fix our policy, see what's going on and why our policy is not as effective. So go back to your policy, and this is a life of a programmer, right? You go back, you fix something, you go back and refix, you evaluate. Okay. So you go back, go to the policy, come down, and right now what we have the value, okay, and the UTC. Let's just add a third parameter in there and see what happens. So I'm gonna edit the definition and let's say we want to add a dash. Okay, so and see if that helps us solve the problem just a bit. Okay, and with that I'm gonna save this policy, and this time I'm gonna apply the policy in a different resource group. Okay, it's still GUID, and next create remediation task, next, and oh, I need to select the scope for different resource group, and let's use, which one should I use? Let's use this one, network watch RG, and then create something. So again, it's creating policy assignment, role assignment, and remediation task, and we'll have to go and see if this is doing a better job. So we already know that the initial policy that we created that had some problem. So if we went to this, okay, the resource group that showed up, okay, they all had the same GUID, and it's sometimes, as I said, this one still hasn't got any, so it's still probably the remediation job is still going on. But if I go to the tag and do the GUID, so I see only one GUID here. If it's and the same GUID is applied to all of them. Okay, we don't want that. We want every single one of them to have different GUID. So the little modification that we did, it is gonna go after another resource group. Let's see if we have any resources in there. This is the resource group. So in these two resource group, if everything goes well, they will also get a GUID, and we'll have to observe is that that GUID is unique between these two or not. So let's pause and see what happens. As a matter of fact, while we were waiting, let's create a new resource in that resource group. So I want the IP address. Uh, Say I want to create a public IP address. Let's create. And if the policy is working properly, what I expect, that a GUID will be created for that resource anyway at the creation time. So it's creating that resource, okay, the deployment. Oh, did I choose the right resource group though? Let's go to the resource, see where did we put that one. Yeah, we report. Look at that. Now I got a resource, a GUID. As soon as I created this one, I got a new GUID. That's good news. So let's create another public IP and see what happens. Now create public IP address. Okay, create, and we're still in the same resource group. Okay, new PIP with GUID. So again, I expect those GUIDs to get created automatically for us, right? So now we are creating the GUID again and go to the resource and let's see if this GUID, and I'm just going to click on that one, see what happens. Okay, hopefully that's different because to validate, I'm going to click on this one, copy this value. Okay, now put it in my unique string, and this is for the new PIP GUID. It will go back to the resource group, go to the old one, click on this one, up, click on the tag, edit, and copy this one, go back over here and see if they are both the same. Look at that. Now we have these two, they are different. So now, although those two different resources are part of the same resource group, they're showing up as different GUID values. So now we have solved the issue that we have. So the next thing that we need to see really is what are the other resources? Okay, they were created previously. Do they have a GUID now? Okay, and you see that is not there yet, but don't worry about it. Just let it run, and once the policy is done, they will all get the GUID in here. So I think we have accomplished what we need to do, and I hope it was helpful to you to go through the process and look at how you review and validate your code and make sure that you understand. I'm still gonna pause the video and review what happens and then end the video. If you want, you can drop now. I'll give you the link to the policy so that you can kind of use it for your own environment if you like. Okay, let me pause. All right, so the last thing I wanted to show in this policy, for whatever reason, if you see the automatic remediation didn't work, you can always come down to the particular policy and click on the create remediation task, and it will go and look at the non-compliant resources that are out there. And all you need to do is you select pretty much those three areas, my resources deployed, say okay, everything is fine, and then I can only just need to create the remediate button and it will go and fix your problem. So the last thing, if you look at that tag now, so now you see the tags are getting generated and each tag over here, they're all unique in nature. So now think about what we did in the beginning. We moved one resource from one group to another. Uh, so one way to validate whether they're unique would be to download this to a Excel or something, then look for unique or try to do the data and then remove duplicate. There should not be any duplicate. The another way to look at it, just click on any of these. There should be only one resource and not two, because this tag key value pair cannot be attached to anything else. So let's click on this one. I have only one. Let's click on this one. I have only one. Click on this one. I have only one. So so that is also telling you that each of these resources now, they got a tag called the GUID, and that GUID is unique across different environment. Now I have placed this in my GitHub account, and I'm going to give you the policy code you can implement in your environment if you think this is useful. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up and join me for more cloud security with Azure. Thank you.